Alright, so I kind of want to do a mini-series for dungeons, so I'm going to be covering all 5 of the dungeons in this sort of mini-series, and I want to explain to you how to, of course, how dungeons works, and how you can beat dungeons. I'm going to be covering Crypts in this video, and I'm going to show you how to, of course, beat Crypts, so a simple walkthrough that you can, of course, play through on any difficulty, how to beat it on power level 140, and, of course, how to, just be able to speedrun it. If you're just trying to beat some sort of challenge, or get some sort of daily challenge done, I'm going to, of course, show you how to beat Crypts very, very quickly. So with all of that being said, let's get into some sort of tips on how to, of course, learn how to get better at dungeons, as well as some loadouts, and some other speedrunning techniques and shenanigans like that. I'm going to show you a couple of different loadouts that you could use for any one of the dungeons. So, feel free to, of course, switch out some heroes if you want. But for the first loadout I'm going to show off, this is going to be a Carbine loadout. So Carbine is pretty straightforward. Basically, whenever you use your Lefty and Righty ability, instead of doing physical damage, will do energy damage, so it doesn't really have a weakness towards any sort of enemies. But also, it will fire out a bunch of bouncing, piercing beams that can, of course, bounce around everywhere, destroying like the entire dungeon. And this is, of course, really useful because you can, of course, just, use your Lefty and Righty to pierce through a bunch of crowds to hit monoliths, but also you can use your Lefty and Righty to destroy the dungeon, which can help you destroy urns a lot faster because you have to destroy 100 urns for one of the repeatable challenges. So Carbine is always a really, really nice pick, of course, for destroying those urns. We have Happy Holidays, of course, as our team perk. We have Raven for extra damage. We have Noir for extra duration for our Lefty and Righty, as long as you get kills. We have Havoc for a bunch of extra movement speed after we use our Shockwave ability, so he's pretty helpful. And same with Fleetfoot Ken, just more movement speed, And then we have Agent 11. She's kind of debatable because I personally don't suggest relying on RNG for different perks. So if you wanted to, you could just probably, run someone like Dashing Hawk instead. That stun can also affect mini-bosses, and each dungeon does have a mini-boss at the end, and also lots of mini-bosses throughout the dungeon that could spawn at random, so you could run Dashing Hawk instead if you really wanted to. And that's pretty much the first loadout that I have here. This second loadout is basically a minigun loadout, so we have Commando Spitfire in lead for that cooldown for our minigun. Very, very nice being able to spam it. And we have Happy Holidays, of course, to spam it even more. We have Diecast Jonesy for extra damage. We have Sergeant Jonesy for extra duration for our minigun. Havoc, again, in support with Fleetfoot Ken, just a great duo. And we have Ted as well in support for extra crit rating and crit damage for a bit more of a consistent higher DPS, I would say. And then for our last loadout, we have Fleetfoot Ken in lead. He is going to be giving us huge movement speed that lasts forever. We have Blakebeard's stash. The items you get from Blakebeard's stash are very, very good, surprisingly, for dungeons. So, I do suggest running it if you don't, own any sort of, heroes that buff minigun or Lefty and Righty. It's a very good alternative. We have, of course, coconuts for a little bit of extra damage and healing if we do need them. We also have extra club damage that's going to help buff our peg legs. And we also have extra cannonball damage. Again, we're going to be getting peg legs and cannonballs from our, little loot chests. We also have Internal Wanderer for movement speed. And then we have Survivalist Jonesy for healing. And the gadgets for all of the loadouts are intentional. They're all hover turrets and slow fields. So in case we are in a bit of a pickle, we could throw up a slow field or a turret. And for the bosses, slow field and turret is still very, very good for the bosses. Now, you don't have to run like the same gadgets or the same heroes, This is just to give you a general idea on what heroes and gadgets you may want to run for dungeons. Alright, so let's talk about how you actually play dungeons. So when you're playing in a co-op lobby, you will spawn in this little storm bubble here. But if you're playing solo, the storm bubble will of course just disappear after a few seconds. You cannot leave the storm bubble, and basically, I suggest what you do before the game actually starts and everyone spawns in to the mission is to farm these little resources here. You got a couple of rocks, a couple of trees, and some other things that you can destroy for extra building materials. And building materials are still fairly important in dungeons because you could use them to make bridges, build ramps, protect yourself in case you get swarmed by lots of different husks, and of course to cover, the traps in the dungeon themselves. And also, this gives you time to check out what perks your weapons have, because this melee as example could have movement speed. And movement speed, as a perk for your melee, can help you progress through the dungeon faster. And also, you could get a roll for, both your range and your melee weapon that does actually have good perks, and that can potentially synergize with perks that you run in your loadout. So if I were to, of course, be playing as my Carbine loadout, I could actually get value from that SMG that I spawned in with, because I can actually use it to reset my, my Lefty and Righty ability a lot faster, so I can use it more often. But of course, because I'm using my Fleetfoot Ken loadout, I don't really get that much value from this starting weapon. So basically, my other account is right there. That is where you will spawn in, and if you just walk straight ahead, you will basically stumble across this big monolith. Monoliths are pretty much like encampments, but they spawn in enemies consistently and infinitely. But you can actually, manually destroy them. You don't have to kill the enemies and it gets destroyed. You could just basically hit it a couple of times and it will just, get destroyed over time. If you want to progress in dungeons, you have to destroy a certain amount of monoliths. So for the starting area, I have to destroy 3 monoliths to get a husk key. And basically, what the husk key does is it allows you to open the door to progress through the dungeon. And there's also a shadow key too. So the shadow key is a lot different from the husk key. The husk key you get by destroying monoliths. The shadow key will spawn in a random area in the dungeon. So right here, this is where the shadow key spawned in for the starting area, but it could spawn in a completely different place because it is of course random. And once you grab both keys, you'll be greeted with a bunch of random enemies just pretty much everywhere, so you will have to fight your way to the door if you do get both keys very, very quickly. Now once you get to the door, if you move at all or you get hit by a random enemy, it will reset you from opening the door, so you will have to open it again. So make sure to of course put a wall, or in this case you could drop a ceiling, to of course stall the enemies and protect you from opening the door. Now let's talk about the way on how you of course can lose in dungeons, or how you can of course, revive your teammates. So in every single floor of every single dungeon, you will get a cursed statue. If a teammate on your team is of course down, you can use the statue to revive them, and it will revive them right at the base of the statue. And if you're playing by yourself, if you, of course go down, it will just automatically revive you at the statue. So you can see right here, my other account is just right here because I used the statue on him. And there's a couple of things I want to talk about with the statue that's really just specific for co-op, but not really specific at all for solo because it doesn't matter for solo play. But basically, when you're playing in a full lobby, and I'm just going to take a full lobby as an example, if you are down and you have 3 teammates up, do not just waste the cursed statue on yourself and revive yourself, because dungeons of course has different traps, lots of ways on how you can get swarmed and just die very easily. So when you use the statue on yourself, and that's the only statue on the current floor you're on, you are potentially risking your teammates from just dying and sitting out, and if you die again, you lose. You will have to restart the dungeon again. So make sure, and this is especially for people that are being carried by the way, that are underpowered, if you're power level 50, and you're the rest of your team is like power level 130 or higher, and you wasted cursed statue on yourself, you are literally sabotaging the team. Do not waste the statue on yourself. Make sure to wait until at least 2, so both yourself and someone else, or maybe even 3 people on the team, including yourself, is down before you use the cursed statue. Waiting and being patient is honestly a lot better than just, using the statue right away. And even if you are the highest power level person in your lobby, sometimes waiting and being patient can make the difference between you, of course, getting through the dungeons, and of course you just having to restart because everyone is dead because, there's no cursed statues at all to use to revive your team. So I just want to mention that real quick in case you do like, of course, grinding dungeons in high power level difficulty with other people. So let's talk about the traps that you could potentially find in every single one of the dungeons. There's a total of 4, and we're going to start off with the arrow wall. The arrow wall basically will just do damage to you when you go in front of it. It has a short-ish cooldown. All of them have around the same cooldown. And basically the switches do damage when you walk in front of it. And you can of course put a wall in front of it to prevent it from attacking you. This right here is a snare trap. This will pretty much keep you in place if you walk onto it. You can of course just place a floor over top of it to not get stuck. And this trap is very, very dangerous because you can't move at all, and the only way to get unstuck is if you play this little mini game with this troll. You have to hit it a total of 3 times. You can hit it twice for a single cycle, and if you kill the troll fast enough, you can actually nab some coins. What makes this trap specifically really dangerous is if you get swarmed. So I'm actually kind of lucky because these guys didn't even spawn in at all, even after I shot the monolith. But yeah, what makes it really hard is if I'm standing right here and the troll is like, behind one of these husklings, I have to, of course, kill the husklings first before I can hit the troll. And if there's a consistent wave of enemies, swarming me, while I'm snared, I could potentially die. And a way that you can of course play around that is of course dropping a smoke bomb. You could drop a frag grenade or shock tower with some other classes, or a plasma pulse, or use a drone or a slow field. So yeah, these traps can be very, very deadly if you aren't paying attention. This right here is a teleportation trap. Basically, this is actually pretty much a double-edged sword sort of trap, because right here, it pretty much teleported me all the way down these stairs and basically further into the dungeon. And that's of course where the teleport trap was. You can actually use these to your advantage by of course teleporting yourself through the dungeon further, so you can actually use them to speedrun dungeons faster, but it can also just teleport you back further down the dungeon where you started, so they can sometimes save you time or waste time. And the last trap is the boulder shoot trap. This is basically just a ceiling arrow wall. It's just going to do damage to you when you walk underneath it. You could cover it with a ceiling to of course have it not trigger on you, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. It's just going to do damage to you and your teammates that walk under it. Alright, with all of the basics out of the way and done with, I'm going to show you a simple walkthrough on how to of course beat dungeons for the Crypts specifically. And yeah, that's pretty much going to be about it. I'm just going to show you pretty much where to go on how to beat Crypts if this is, your first time actually, playing Crypts, basically. So right here at the start, we're going to go straight away to Monolith. I'm going to farm kills so I can get my super stash loot, so I can get my peg legs, my cannonballs, and coconuts. But coconuts you don't really need on lower difficulty, so you can kind of just ignore those if you want, because there are actually health potions that the enemies can drop sometimes, believe it or not. And those will of course heal you too, and you can find those throughout the, the dungeon in general, just by killing, anything, really. As you can see, the shadow key actually spawned in a different spot. It's actually pretty close to this last monolith right here. And we're going to go from this last monolith all the way into this building right here, down to the door. And we're just going to of course place some ceilings so we don't get shot at all, and open this door. Now we are in the dungeon, so we're going to come over here to the right. I like going on the left side, and we're going to destroy this monolith right here. This is of course the first monolith. There's also a monolith up here too. None of the monoliths, by the way, in the first room are ever randomized. They will always spawn in the same spot, so those two monoliths will always spawn down there. And then you can also nab some chests too. When you open chests of any kind, they will give you golden coins. The more golden coins you have, and that wild counter that you see on the left, means the more gold you'll get at the end of the mission. So you can also farm lots of gold too in dungeons as well. And now we're going to be, of course, going straight down these stairs. These stairs will lead to, of course, another room over here that has another monolith. There's a couple of different traps in this room. There's another monolith too that's just blocking this door, but you don't actually need to destroy it to get past the door. And I actually don't normally destroy it at all, because there's another monolith like right beside the main door. Shadow Key spawns in here. If you come through here, you get free chest, which is of course great. Can probably re-roll, you know, some different weapons, get some extra coins. Another chest over here. A mimic can actually spawn right here where this chest spawns, so pretty good spot to look for if you do want to get some free mimic kills for that one challenge. And basically the door is just pretty much straight this way. There's always a trap that spawns there. And yeah, there's always a monolith here. I always destroy this as my last monolith, because if you don't, you'll just have enemies that spawn. They actually will destroy those walls around the door too. So you will have to do some sort of weird maneuver to of course open that door. But now that we've opened the door, we will just come down here, down the stairs. And this sort of room is kind of a little weird, because it's sort of like a pick your path, but you know, it's just always to the same spot anyways. So you can kind of walk over top, down there, take one of the hallways, and you'll always land in the same spot. So right here, when we get to the end of this hallway, there's going to be a mini boss that spawns in, and this mini boss will always spawn in here, so you can always guaranteed an extra mini boss kill when you come to, of course, the middle area of the crypts on the second floor. There's also a monolith too that spawns here, and this monolith of course is not randomized, so it will always spawn pretty much in this part of the dungeon, always. So you can always destroy this monolith in case you really want to. But it's not really that necessary, because the last room actually has 4 monoliths when you only need to get rid of 3. So if we come all the way down here, stick to the left because there are traps on the right. Basically, you will be greeted with this huge open room, and there's pretty much monoliths pretty much everywhere. There's of course 2 monoliths right beside the door. There's 1 monolith all the way over there, and this is why you should also pay attention to, of course, teleport traps. Because if you memorize where all of the traps are, you won't be randomly snared or teleported at all. But yeah, pretty much it's just teleporting me all the way back here, which kind of sucks. But yeah, like I was saying, there's pretty much another monolith all the way over here on the far left of the room. And then if you go, of course, all the way to the far right up there, there's another monolith up there too. And because you only need to destroy 3 monoliths for the husky, you can destroy any 3 you want. You know, you can skip the one in the middle of the second floor if you want. The Shadow Key also spawns, I do believe it always spawns in this area too. So basically you probably just want to get to this room as fast as possible when you're of course trying to grind the crypts. So just in case you forgot, this is where we came from. And basically the door is just located just pretty much straight this way, closer to the left. You cannot build a wall here, so I do suggest building 3 walls and a ramp there, just in case. And now we're basically on to the last floor before the boss. So when you come through the door here, you can take, of course, the stairs down, but you can also just jump off the edge here. You know, that's of course where you're going to go if you take the actual route. Come through this door. And I actually don't suggest going across this bridge, just make your own, because there's always a trap that spawns there. And teleport traps are always bad for this floor specifically, but what I like to do normally is just come down here, and you can basically nab a free chest right here, you know, bit of extra money, and potentially some extra weapons too, as well. And this part of the dungeon is pretty deadly if you're not paying attention. So basically, if you ever fall off of this bridge, or this bridge, you will die. There is that is a pit of death right there. So if you're playing with something like a minigun loadout or a carbine, and there's a teammate crossing this bridge, do not shoot at a monolith either on that bridge there or across from the bridge there, because they will just fall and die. And yeah, you don't want it to be, of course, killing your own teammates, of course. And yeah, there's also a monolith here. It's not guaranteed. There's a lot more RNG, of course, with this last room in the Crypts. So you might not even have a monolith that spawns there. And in all dungeons, there's also secret doors that you could find. Now, normally you have to, of course, just kind of look around different objects like this chest, this table right here. There's a barrel over here. All of these objects can, of course, have the secret key to open the door, and you will be rewarded with a few urns and probably a chest or two, depending on which sort of secret door it is that you opened. And basically, now we have two different paths that we take. So you want to go down the right one, of course, if you want to get to a door, but let's go down the left one first. So you can, of course, score another monolith right here, but also there's another secret door. The key is normally up here, you know, just in this little hut. If not, it's probably just going to be up there where the monolith is. But also down here, this is very important. You can actually steal a free safe in this dungeon right here. And this is really, really good for a few reasons. For one, if you have a safe that you need to open for a daily challenge, you can just come to Crypts and get it done. But also, cram session challenges normally come back every time dungeons is here and around. And there is 4 different challenges that you can get for cram session. There's, of course, one for killing Husk, one for getting exploration badges, one for opening chests, and one for opening safes. So being able to just come down here and get like a couple hundred gold just by opening that safe, that's not randomized, by the way. Every single game you play in the Crypts will always have a safe there, and you will always get couple hundred extra gold if cram session is around. So that's very, very good. So keep that in mind when cram session does come back later on in the season, because it will. So now we're going to go down the right path. There's always traps, by the way, that spawn there, so it's best just to build a ramp above that, or bridge. And we got the shadow key that spawns there, so we're going to hop down here. Of course, that's the stairway that you're going to take to, of course, get back on track. There is normally a monolith that does spawn there by those barrels. And also, there's a mimic that normally spawns here too, so you can also guarantee a mimic kill, which is, of course, good for your little challenge. And now, we're going to come through this doorway right here, and this is basically just a huge gauntlet of traps, and just other things that are going to kill you. But there is one last monolith. This monolith is never randomized, it will always spawn here, so you're always guaranteed one monolith if you make it back here. And the door is just on the other side of the room. And yeah, basically, pretty much, you know, you're going to want to box yourself in. You cannot put a ramp because of the pillars there. But yeah, once you get through this door, you will be greeted into a boss arena. There's some stairways that, of course, lead upwards in all directions. And basically, the boss that you're going to be fighting he's called Flad. And basically, he's pretty much just in, you know, a Taker mini-boss. So anything a Taker can do, Flad can do as well. But of course, a couple of other things to keep in mind. For one, when he reaches 50% health, he will despawn. And that, believe it or not, actually does count towards your mini-boss challenge, so you can actually guarantee free mini-boss kills per game, because Flad will give you 2, and the mini-boss in the second floor in the middle area will always give you 1. And basically, when you get to this part of the boss fight, you can just camp up here, because, you know, it's just a survival sort of area, but you don't really ever need to do that at all, especially for lower difficulty. You can if you want, but I prefer, honestly, just to kill as many enemies as possible, because you can be rewarded with extra coins. Of course, coins will be transferred into gold at the end of the mission, so, you know, why not just farm extra money? But yeah, pretty much, Flad also has, like, a life leech ability as well, so if he hits you, he will heal himself, so try not to be in range of him when he, of course, tries to melee you at all. And also, when Flad respawns, he'll actually have a damage immunity for a couple of seconds. I think it's around 10 seconds or so. But yeah, this pegleg doesn't really hit that much damage, but it does hit some good damage now because his damage immunity went away. So basically, wait around like 5 to 10 seconds and Flat is pretty much just dead. So make sure not to waste your minigun or Lefty and Righty, you know, when Flat like just respawns, because you just waste the ability. So that is basically pretty much the Crypts as the simple walkthrough done with. So let me show you how you can now pretty much speedrun through the Crypts. For this round, I'm using my minigun loadout, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really want to use any of these weapons. You don't really need weapons at all with minigun, because it really does have that short of a cooldown, and you could really spam it as an actual main weapon, if you really wanted to. And yeah, basically, just going to get rid of that monolith straight away. I like getting rid of the farther one, and then the middle one, and then I like leaving the key right there. And that's basically because, you know, like I don't want the takers to just spawn in right away and get in my way. So I like grabbing the shadow key first and then the husk key for this first area right here. Now we're going to, of course, head to the door. We're just going to, of course, build the ceilings again, like we did last time, and just open the door. We are going to, of course, come down the pathway, like of course for the first run that I did, and we're instantly going to destroy that monolith and that monolith right there, cancel our minigun, and I'm actually going to destroy some urns actually right here, so I can get some more building materials, so I can of course build more ramps, more bridges, and just other things that can help me of course progress through the dungeons a little bit faster. We're going to completely ignore that monolith right there. You can actually make that jump there, I just suck and never make it, but you can actually time it really well and make that jump to save a bit of time. The shadow key is of course just behind here, and there's actually a destructible wall right there that you can, you know, nab another chest from if you want some extra gold. And now we're basically pretty much done with the first floor within less than 2 minutes. We're also using our shockwave whenever we can, too, as well, in this run, because our shockwave, like I said before, we are running Havoc in support, and he's going to give us extra movement speed whenever we use our shockwave. So that is why we are spamming it whenever we can. And right here, I'm just going to skip this mini-boss. You don't really need to, of course, deal with the mini-boss and that monolith, like I mentioned earlier, because there's always 4 monoliths that always spawn in this last room for the second floor of the dungeon, or for the crypts, I guess, technically. So we're going to, of course, get rid of this farthest monolith. We don't want the husky to ever spawn there. We're going to get rid of this monolith, because we're right beside it. And now we're going to grab the shadow key, which is just up here, in a nice little chamber. And because the smasher boss actually did teleport, we're actually going to be building upwards a tile, and building walls behind us so we don't get sniped by any pitchers or gunslingers, or jumped by any husklings, and that's going to keep us safe from the smasher boss. We're going to build a pyramid like that so we could jump over like that, and go straight through this door. I'm also just going to over top of the bridge, because of the strap there. It's best not to just go straight all of the time. And the key is right here, basically right where this monolith is. There is another monolith right there. And I'm actually going to do a very interesting play. I'm going to grab the key and just jump off the map and kill myself. And basically, there's a respawn statue basically all the way back here. And there's always a monolith, like I mentioned before. There's always a monolith that spawns back here 100% of the time. So now I know, because I have 2 monoliths destroyed, I can just kill myself, respawn at the statue, and basically complete the third room within like around a minute or so. And now we're pretty much at the boss. And basically what we're going to do for the boss, we're just going to of course just sit up here, wait for him to spawn in. We're going to pop our minigun, and basically just gun him down. Vlad dies incredibly quickly by minigun, because he is of course a physical enemy, and minigun does do physical damage. And from here, you can just do whatever you want. I'm just of course running minigun, so I'm just probably going to destroy the entire dungeon, destroy urns, and of course just kill everything with drones. So it's basically just a waiting game right here. Nothing really much I can really do in this part of the dungeon.
You're still standing? You'll be back.
Vlad is now back, so now we're going to head all the way back up to these stairs. He always spawns on top of these stairs every single time, and we are going to wait around 5 to 10 seconds because of his spawn immunity. You can see right here I'm just shooting him with this vacuum tube bow I found, and it's not really doing that much damage, even a fully charged shot, but he's taking like huge damage now, and that's because of his spawn immunity. That's why you want to wait before you of course use all of your abilities, your gadgets. You kill them because they might just not do any damage. So that's pretty much how you speedrun the Crypts. And let's check out now how you beat the Crypts on Power Level 140 if you want that banner. So we are doing Power Level 140 Crypts. I'm using my Carbine loadout, and you can see it right there in the top left. It was Power Level 140. And yeah, pretty much we're going to do the same thing as we did before with some of the other runs. We're going to come up here, destroy that first monolith. We're going to shoot the monolith at the back all the way over there. And we're going to leave the middle monolith right there as our last one that we destroy. Because the shadow key is very, very close to a second monolith, so we might as well to just, you know, have that be the last monolith that we destroy. Now we're going to come down here and just open this door. And what I'm actually going to do before I actually go straight into the dungeon, I'm going to actually destroy some of these urns. Because why not? You know, it's free building materials. Potentially I could get some free scraps. Like a free campfire is honestly not bad. Because that could potentially make the difference of, you know, me living and me just, you know, dying. And yeah, we're basically just going to loot up from a chest, from somebody's chest over here. Again, it's more money. And we could potentially get a pretty good weapon too. And then right after we loot these chests, we can just destroy the two monoliths here. And I'm going to take this Dragon's Might. Very strong weapon. So we're going to destroy these two monoliths in its, you know, first room. And we're just going to destroy like the entire room. And yeah, we gain like 30 urns just by destroying that entire room. So yeah, Carbine, very, very good. If you just want to, you know, destroy a bunch of urns without really putting in any effort at all.
Well, I hope you didn't need that shielding.
We're going to, of course, skip the second monolith and fail on that jump again, like always. The shadow key is just right here. I'm actually going to grab the chest, because something that's worth noting with Carbine is that even though he is an incredibly strong hero for dungeons, you do have to sort of wait until you get your ability back up to be able to use it again. So a lot of the time when you're playing with Carbine, it might just be best to use your ability when you absolutely need it. And then in that downtime when you don't have it, just farm a bunch of chests or safes for challenges or just for free gold, because why not? Or maybe spend that extra bit of time to, you know, pick up some weapons and just look at the perks that they have. And then just, you know, run those as your weapons in case you do need them. And just like that, we are done the first floor of the Crypts. And basically, I'm just going to come down these stairs, of course. You kind of have to come down these stairs if you even want to, you know, progress through this part of the dungeon, so. And right here, there's actually a teleport trap. And I'm gonna take it, and this was a very good teleport trap. It basically teleported me to the last room. That's the hallway, by the way, that leads to the door. And I'm actually gonna destroy this wall right here. And there's a secret door right here. I got time to kill because my ability doesn't come off cooldown for a little bit longer. So we're just going to open this secret door, steal a free chest for some extra money, and yeah, pretty much we're just waiting on our ability. And now that our ability is somewhat off of cooldown, I can now make some actual progress in this dungeon. because it is actually very hard to get rid of monoliths, especially high power level ones, without any sort of, you know, high damage ability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a small bridge like that, snipe that far monolith over there, snipe that one right there, and then get rid of this one right here because it's basically just right beside me. I guess I could have destroyed the farther one because the shadow key did spawn over here, but I guess it doesn't really matter that much to begin with. And yeah, pretty much destroy an urn or two, and we are now down to the third floor of the crypts. And keep in mind too, this is still power level 140. My power level dropped from 130 to 126 because of the weapons I have in my inventory. So just keep that in mind, you don't need, you know, hero or survivor superchargers at all to do this dungeon on this power level. And I still have, of course, a bit of time to kill before my ability comes back, so I'm going to grab this this chest right here. Again, you might as well, you know, it's always nice to stock up on a few things, because, you know, why not? And also, I kind of like the idea of having a double bundle bus in case I find a defender pad. So, you know, you can only have 3 weapons in your inventory at once, so keep that in mind when you're playing dungeons. So right here, I'm going to use my Lefty and Righty, and we're going to get rid of this monolith all the way back here. And believe it or not, that there's actually only 5 different possible monolith spawns. One of them is, of course, always guaranteed to spawn by the door for the boss, but the other 4 are, of course, randomized. But because there wasn't a monolith on the bridge, and there wasn't a monolith by the secret door, that meant that the only 2 monolith spawns could be, of course, down the corridor on the left, and of course the one just before the monolith by the boss arena door. So now I know where all of the monoliths are. The shadow key just spawns in this monolith. I don't really know why they spawn in the monoliths, kinda weird. But what I'm actually going to do is just gonna loot up on some chests because I don't have my ability. Need to kill a bit of time, so I'm just going to steal that chest, grab some money, and now I'm going to, of course, destroy the last 2 monoliths with just 1 ability. And I actually got Blasted Charm Mini. It's not really that good that I got an SMG this late on into a dungeon, but that's just the reason why you probably shouldn't be relying on perks that are just RNG. And yeah, pretty much we're done with the 3rd floor, and now we're on to the boss arena for the crypts.
Each one, only once. The last key has been found. That's not great for you.
So we're now in the boss arena, and I don't have my ability. So what you could do before the boss is, of course, wait until your ability refreshes, and then, of course, go into, you know, the boss arena with your ability up. But I'm actually just going to use my weapons and my gadgets to help out quite a bit. Flight is pretty tanky, you know, on power level 140, so you do need a bit of teamwork to get rid of him. But if you get, like, some good RNG like I did, I just found this Dragon's Might earlier, and this does, like, really high damage to him. So I don't need my ability at all for the boss, or at least the boss's first phase. And basically, you could build up here, but I'm not really going to do that. I'm just going to chill down here and just kill some husks, get some free coins, and of course, you know, try not to die. But if you are struggling, you can, of course, you know, put down a few traps, like some healing traps or traps to kill them. And yeah, it's getting a little rough, kind of struggling a bit, but it's power level 140, so, I mean, it does kind of make a little bit of sense. But yeah, that's definitely a skill issue right there. But you do always have the cursed statue to revive you, so even if you die once, it's not really a big deal. You die twice, that is a bit of a big deal, I would definitely say. But yeah, pretty much Flat is coming back in a few seconds. So it's not really a big deal that I died, but it's not really that cool either, I would say. But pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to lure Flat into a nice tight spot. I don't want to, of course, get dive bombed by him, because that is going to be a lot of damage. And I'm basically just going to, of course, build a box around him like this, and then use my Lefty and Righty. All of the projectiles I shoot at him will bounce off and ricochet, hitting him back again. And we pretty much just go Flat, pretty much like that. And just like that, we got power level 140 Crypts done pretty easily, within less than 9 minutes. Not bad. And again, we're power level technically 130. It says 127 because of the weapons I have currently in my inventory. But yeah, that's pretty much all you have to do to beat Crypts, power level 140. And even with a couple of mistakes, I would say still got done pretty easily, I would say. Well, I guess that's the end of the video once again. If you enjoyed this video, maybe think about leaving a like or subscribing. I do this sort of content all the time and it helps out the channel a lot. If you have any feedback or any sort of ideas for future loadouts or trap builds or any sort of video ideas you have, make sure to leave a comment. And also, share this video with anyone that likes Save the World. There's probably someone that's struggling with dungeons, and this video could probably help them out quite a bit. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and hope you have a great day. So, see you in the next one.